Hey everyone, it's NHL Hockey News Reports. We're back in the video, and yes, I am making my NHL bracket here. Yes, my NHL Hockey News Reports, bracket challenge for the 2023 playoffs. This is my thoughts on it. Who wins, who loses. I'll see a lot of people pick the Bruins and the Oilers to be in the finals. Either the Bruins win or the Oilers win, but I gotta change it up. I'm changing it up, and I don't want to go for the easy, basic, because usually, or I should say most likely, they're going to be wrong. I want to pick some upsets here. I do. I don't want to be too crazy with them, but I do want to pick some upsets. I do want to do that because it happens. Every year, there's always an upset somewhere. So, I'm going to pick a couple. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I do have two teams in the Stanley Cup that I want to see, together. That I thought these two teams, I really think they'll make it to the Stanley Cup final. So let's get into it. Starting off with Boston and Florida. 121 points by Boston, 83 by Florida. The best goal scorer for Boston is David Pastrnak. For the Panthers, it's Carter Verhaeghe. Fantastic core for the Panthers also with Barkov, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, players like that. But, on defensive, Ekblad, my bad. But Bruins with, Lindholm and Grzelcyk and McAvoy and guys like that. And, Orlov that you have, and the trade deadline acquisitions with Hathaway too, and Bertuzzi. I do think the Bruins will win this one. This is a no-brainer. This is not going to be an upset one, because I'm just going to be totally wrong on this one. So, definitely picking the Bruins on this one. So, the Bruins, I'll make it into the second round. Moving on to Toronto and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay beat Toronto last year on 7. Even though Toronto was up 3-2, Lightning came back in Game 6, won Game 6 and Game 7. 98 points by Toronto, 94 by Tampa Bay. As you see that, quite interesting, isn't it? As you see. First off, on the power play, 25%. A little bit better, a tad better by the Maple Leafs. But William Nylander is one of the best goal scorers for the Maple Leafs, along with Matthews and Marner. Braden Point is for the Lightning with Kucherov and Stamkos and all those guys. But I will be picking Toronto to beat Tampa Bay this time and move on to the second round. Moving on to Carolina and New York Islanders. 103 points by Carolina, 87 by the Islanders. The power play a little bit better than the Islanders, obviously, because Islanders do not have a good power play whatsoever. You look at the offensive goal scorers here. Sebastian Aho is the best for Carolina. Brock Nelson has been the best for the Islanders. Now, Matt Barzal is back for Game 1. You have Barzal, you have Horvat, and you have Nelson down the middle for the Islanders. Carolina, they're going to miss Andrei Stanchikov being out for the playoffs, for the rest of the playoffs, or for the playoffs in general. Aho, you have Jarvis, you have so many other guys, even on defense. You have good goaltending, good defense, but the Islanders have solid goaltending too. And defense has been a little spotty lately, but you hope that it shows up, so it'll be good to go. So I'm going to be picking the Carolina Hurricanes to win this one. I do think the Hurricanes will be moving on, but I think the Islanders will make it tough on them. Moving on to the Devils and the Rangers. 102 points by the Devils and 98 by the Rangers. This is going to be a long series. It really feels like it will be. Leading goal scorer here is Jack Hughes. And you have Mika Zibanejad as the leading goal scorer. Hughes leads the group here with a bunch of young talent. The learning for sure. We'll see what happens, but I do think the Devils. I'm picking the Devils to win this one in 7. I think it will be an upset on this one. I will pick the Devils to beat the Rangers, but it's gonna be a tough one. It really is going to be tough. Boston and the Panthers, how many? 5. I'm going for them. Toronto and Tampa Bay, this is going to be a long series and brutal series. I'm going to say 7. Carolina and the New York Islanders, I'm going to say 6 for this one. Islanders going to try to hold them off. And 7 against the Devils and the Rangers. Moving on to the Western Conference, looking at Colorado and Seattle. Colorado is definitely the better team. 94 points, 90 by Seattle. Leading goal scorer. Over 50 goals. I think he had like 55. Mikko Rantanen. And you have Jared McCann as the leading goal scorer for the Kraken. Obviously, the Avalanche have fantastic goal scoring with McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen. Better offense for the Avalanche. That weapons they have. I know they've been injured all season long, battling these injuries. But Colorado, I do think they're going to beat the Seattle Kraken. Seattle, first time in franchise history, they are playing the Stanley Cup playoffs, first time, so we'll see how it goes for them, for sure. Alright, moving on to Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas and Minnesota is going to be a tough one, and this is 50-50. Really, it feels like 50-50. 94 points by the Dallas Stars, 97 by the Wild. Leading goal scorers, Jason Robertson and Kirill Kaprizov for the Wild. Fantastic players right there. Unbelievable offense there. For Dallas, you also have Roope Hintz, Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin. Wild, you don't have Eriksson Ek. He is skating. He should be back. Hopefully he's back in this series. It would be very important. Gustafsson for the Wild have been very good. So has Jake Ottinger for the Dallas Stars. So this is really going to be a tight one. They played in 2017 last time. I remember this one. But the team is different. Both cores are different. I am picking Dallas to beat Minnesota. And that's what happened last time. Minnesota hasn't been out of the first round since, isn't it 2013? 2012, 2013. So I would love to see Wild move on. I really do, but I feel like it will be Dallas playing Colorado like they did in the bubble. Colorado and Dallas. Moving on to Vegas and Winnipeg. 99 points by Vegas, 85 by Winnipeg. I do feel like when the Golden Knights will be moving on. You do have Jack Eichel, that fantastic goal scorer. Mark Stone should be back. The All-Star and Larry Brossoit for Game 1 for the Golden Knights. The difference maker, I think Connor Hellebuyck will be trying to keep the Jets in it, and that's going to make it tough on them if Connor Hellebuyck wins a couple games for himself here for the Winnipeg Jets. Moving on to the Oilers and the Kings. They're very close in points-wise. Goal scoring, we all know who has the advantage. McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins. That is the Edmonton Oilers, with McDavid leading the goal scoring and Adrian Kempe leading the Kings. I do think the Edmonton Oilers do beat them. It's going to be upsetting for them because they lost again. They lost last year to the Kings in the first round in Game 7. I do think they lose again. Unfortunately, they're going to be like, oh, what do we do? But it is the Oilers with the offense. Now the Oilers have that goaltending. Before they had Mikko Koskinen, they had Mike Smith. Mike Smith looked better than Mikko Koskinen. Mike Smith was older, 40 years old, inconsistent at times, but played well, I gotta say. But you gotta say, too, he is older, and that was it. But yeah, Stuart Skinner, you have Jack Campbell. The goaltending should be better in the playoffs this year instead of wild games. Instead, they should have more of an advantage than like 6-5 games and 7-6 games and crazy games like that. More like 6-2, 6-3, 7-1. If they can score that much, we'll see how they do. Colorado and Seattle, I'm going to say they go to 6. Colorado is dominant, but the injuries they do have, I think will bring them to 6 games. Moving on now to the Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets. I do think this one will be in 6-2 because Connor Hellebuyck will win a couple games there for them. But I do think Vegas can do it. I think they're always going to have a little goaltending problem. Logan Thompson for the goalie has not skated yet. Hopefully he's back sometime in the series. They all start, like I said, Brossoit, so I think they might have a little trouble there. They might do Jonathan Quick. We'll see what happens. I think having that problem may bring them to 6 games. Dallas and Minnesota, this gotta go to 7 games. And you got the Oilers and the Kings. I think this one's gonna go at least to 6. We're going 6 games. Moving on back to the East here, this is where my upset does happen. Boston versus the Maple Leafs. I know you probably already know what I'm saying now. Like we talked about Pastrnak and Nylander and Marner and Tavares and Matthews. You have Pastrnak, you have Bergeron, Marchand, Krejci. You have a fantastic team, right? You also have goaltending Allmark. You also have goaltending in the Maple Leafs with Samsonov. Obviously, Allmark's been more impressive than Samsonov, but Samsonov has had a really solid season. I am going to be picking the Toronto Maple Leafs to get to the conference final. Yes, it's upset. Yes, I'm a Habs fan. But, yes, the Maple Leafs will be moving on to the conference final for the first time in a long time. So, I know it's an upset. People might not like this. I am not picking the Oilers, like I said, in the Bruins to be in the final. This is different for me. Moving on now to Carolina, and you also have the Carolina and the Devils. I am picking Carolina to play the Maple Leafs. Yes, I don't know how many people are having this, but I am picking this. Not because it's a really big change, but I do think this is going to be possible. You have Toronto, and you do have Carolina play each other. Moving on now to Colorado and Dallas. I am picking Dallas to beat them. I like the goaltending, I like the offense. I think they're more healthy than the Avalanche. I do think the Avalanche are going to be solid, but it's going to be tough for them because the injuries, not having Langland Scott. But I do think it's going to be a tight one, and I do think the Dallas Stars will be moving on to the conference final. Vegas and Edmonton, this is going to be a tough one. You got McDavid, you got Eichel playing, against each other, facing off against each other. I am going to be picking the Oilers for this one. Just the offense, just the dynamic of that. I will be moving on to the Oilers for this part of the board. We have moving on to the Eastern Conference. You got Toronto and you got the Hurricanes. Both fantastic teams. I am going to be picking the Hurricanes to be making the Stanley Cup Finals. Yes, the Toronto Maple Leafs get this far. I do think this is successful for them, but I am picking the Hurricanes to move on this far. I feel like the goaltending will be hot enough. You have Kochekov, you have Freddie Anderson, and you have Antti Raanta. Last year, Freddie Anderson wasn't good, not good enough. I didn't mean that, but injured. Raanta played really well until he kind of ran out of steam, and then they lost. Now you have Kochekov, who can also be that guy that help you out in goaltending. You have the defense. You have Brett Burns, who knows the playoffs. You have Slavin, Pesic, Brady Shea on the defense. The offensive, Aho, Jarvis, you have that team. Fantastic. With Jordan Stahl. You just have a really solid group of veterans playing some fantastic hockey. And I do think they're going to grind it out and find themselves in the Stanley Cup Final. Dallas. I was going to say Winnipeg. Sorry. Dallas. Edmonton. I am picking Dallas to beat Edmonton. Yes, people might be like, you're going to have Edmonton. That would be repeating the 6? I think 2006 Stanley Cup Final between the Hurricanes and the Oilers. No, I do not have that. I have the Stars beating the Edmonton Oilers. Yes, I do. I do think Hurricanes and the Dallas Stars will be playing each other. This is going to be an interesting one. It's different from everyone's bracket, but I do think it's an interesting one for sure. I am picking the Carolina Hurricanes to win the Stanley Cup. The 2023 Stanley Cup champions go to the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm going to say 32 goals. Let's say 32 goals. That is what I'm going for. Actually, I'm going to go for, let's go for 30, 38. We're going for 38 goals. So that is what I have. This is what it is. The Carolina Hurricanes beat the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup Final. So, let me know your thoughts on this one. My picks are in. Carolina has won the Stanley Cup. So let me know your thoughts on this. Quite interesting, I know. It's different from people's already there, already watched. But, yes, Carolina wins this. So I'll see you next video. Any Children supports. And watch out for some playoff content coming up, right? See you next video. Bye.